The following program discusses sensitive issues. Parental caution is advised. Welcome to A Mental Journey, the series where I talk about my mental issues and overcoming them. We are now on the final episode where I will try to wrap it up and at the same time deal with the big subject of complex PTSD. During this series, I have tried to share light on the central issues and resolutions connected to my illnesses. It has truly been a deep emotional and intellectual journey for me, but also a physical and primarily a spiritual one. There is so much that could be added and highlighted, experiences I've had and layers that have been peeled off and healed. But the principle has always been the same. God has pinpointed my issue and allowed me to experience a sense of nakedness and freedom in the newfound understanding. Then He has given me opportunities to practice trust under pressure, giving me comfort during the learning process. For whatever issue I have had, great or small, this has been the repeated form. Since I prefer to make things simple and more easy to take in, I have only shared the most prominent and perhaps most explanatory experiences in my journey toward healing. But in this episode, I want to give you a broader look and perhaps fill in some gaps. As you probably understand, mental illness usually is multifaceted, and one diagnosis usually overlaps another. So even though I have tried to categorize my issues to make it more accessible, in the timeline of my healing process, each issue has either overlapped or popped up at different occasions. But in 2022, I felt like I was healed. I had no anxiety. My suicidal thoughts and depression were nowhere to be found. My eating disorder and panic attacks had for a long time been dormant, and the obvious symptoms of my burnout had subsided. I felt great mentally. But I still struggled with triggers. As I mentioned in the anxiety episode, God directly telling me that I am triggered when I feel that I am not enough was one piece of the complex puzzle. But as I also mentioned in the anxiety episode, there was more to be realized. As I socially became more stable and otherwise in life felt fine, I started seeing that my lingering inability to tackle, for example, the dishes or laundry, or my extreme procrastination when it came to paying the bills or do other normal life must-dos, it was actually caused by something more than laziness. I would make up my mind to do a chore, and as I approached it, I would feel weak and sometimes dizzy and sick. I realized that I had the same experience when at work or being in any other situation from which I could not escape. This bothered me a lot, because when I was doing things that I enjoyed or felt relaxed in, I was completely fine and well functioning. One evening, after we had put our son to sleep, my husband and I were in the bathroom. I remember it so vividly. He was brushing his teeth, and I was pacing and letting loose my frustration about how I just couldn't understand these symptoms. Was I lazy, or was there really something wrong with me? As I ranted about this, all of a sudden, in a split of a second, it felt like a lightning had shined up my mind, and in my memory I could recall standing for a short period before God and hearing Him say to me, "You have what they call complex PTSD. I will heal you from that as well, but it will take time, because there are things I want to teach you so that you can help others." From my husband's perspective, I went from venting my frustration to suddenly stopping and then just bursting out in tearful laughter. He just looked at me, wondering what in the world just happened with his unstable wife. My husband is a doctor and very inclined to need proof to believe something. As you might understand, I had to talk him through what had happened inside of my mind, and thankfully we share the same faith, so he didn't question me too much. He had also seen the healing results in my life and knew that God was in control. I am so thankful for my husband. He is really an answer to prayer. I will not go much into detail about the stressors in my childhood and early adulthood that left these complex scars in my brain, but what I want to say for the sake of information is that I did not experience any typically classified abuse, no sexual abuse or other hands-on physical abuse. No one has wanted to harm me, and I have been loved. The main cause for the chronic stress was what psychology talks about as emotional abandonment. My father was sick and my mother worked. The family was torn apart in divorce, and the sad consequences of it all left me feeling like I was placed in between, not really belonging anywhere. There is much more that could be shared about traumas and other stressors that have been a part of my life, and much more that could be unpacked when it comes to how I handle the situation and my feelings, and how those unhealthy ways of dealing with life became default in my brain. But enough for now about that. What I feel important to share is that I am being healed, even from complex scars. And as I've mentioned, I did backslide from time to time, going back into sickness when I lost my trust in God. And I see that freedom from all lifestyle-related illnesses, including many mental issues, demands that we stay away from the things making us sick. If we don't, we will fall back into sickness, even if we have been healed at some point. But the good news is that as long as we get back up, there is a way forward. I would love to share more. How layer by layer of my scar tissue has been peeled off and is still in the process of being revealed and healed. But as I said before, my main purpose with sharing my journey is to give you hope and hopefully some keys to finding healing for yourself. I truly wish healing for you, and I pray that whoever you are, that you would dare to reach out to God, because He can give true, deep, long-lasting and permanent healing. We might not always feel overwhelmed by joy and peace in the midst of difficult situations, but the complete trust that we can develop in the relationship with God will carry us through everything. As always, don't give up. There is